Ashford, Virginia, a quiet town nestled far from the bustling cities, where life moved at a gentle pace and everyone knew everyone else. It was a place where families grew up, went to church, and lived their lives under the watchful eyes of St. Mark's Church. This Gothic structure, with its towering steeple, had always been more than just a house of worship. It was the heart of the community. But in the fall of 2014, Ashford would be forever scarred behind the stained glass and the echo of hymns. A secret darker than anyone could have imagined was about to be revealed. St. Mark's had always been more than just a church. It was a sanctuary for the town's collective soul. Its bells rang through the valley, and its warm, golden light welcomed those seeking peace. The townspeople believed nothing could taint the purity of the place that had stood through wars, hardships, and generations of families. But that fall, the town would be forever changed. Ashford, a town once defined by its simplicity and devotion, would soon bear the weight of a chilling secret buried beneath the church's hallowed walls. No one could have predicted that within the sacred place of worship, the unimaginable would unfold. The disappearance of Maria Grayson. Maria Grayson was Ashford's light, a woman whose laugh echoed like music through the streets. At 30, she had already carved out a life filled with love and purpose. A Sunday school teacher, she gave everything to the children of the town. But on one fateful October morning, she didn't show up for class. Her absence was unsettling, but no one panicked at first. Maybe she was ill. Maybe she had traveled to see family. But when hours stretched into the evening and her phone calls went unanswered, the town's anxiety grew into full-blown fear. The streets of Ashford grew silent as neighbors, once familiar faces, anxiously glanced at one another, the usual hum of town life now overshadowed by the creeping sense of dread. By evening, people began searching for her. The sun dipped below the horizon, but the fear only intensified. Lisa Carter, Maria's best friend, couldn't shake the feeling that something was horribly wrong. As the hours stretched on, the town, once so peaceful and trusting, felt the first stirrings of dread that would ultimately consume it. There was no answer at her door, and no sign of her car's familiar parked silhouette. When neighbors went to her cottage, they found the door unlocked and her car parked outside, but no Maria. Panic set in. That night, the townsfolk gathered in the streets with flashlights, searching every corner of Ashford for the missing teacher. But they would never have expected what they would find, especially not in the place they held most sacred, a crime scene. Like no other, Lisa Carter, Maria's closest friend, was the one who found her. With a heavy heart, she went to St. Mark's to prepare for the evening service. As she walked into the confessional to retrieve supplies, the sight that awaited her nearly broke her. Maria lay lifeless on the floor, her throat cut so precisely that the wound looked like a cruel work of art. Blood pooled beneath her, dark and unnatural against the white stone floor. Her skin, once vibrant with life, was pale and lifeless, the final testament to a brutal end. But it wasn't just the murder that shocked Lisa. It was the desecration that followed. Maria's wrists were bound with a rosary, blood slicking the once innocent beads. A white cloth, embroidered with a cross, was shoved into her mouth, an abhorrent mockery of the faith she held dear. The symbolic violence felt as though it was meant to strip away everything Maria represented, corrupting the purity of her devotion. In that moment, the town's sense of safety died with Maria. Ashford would never be the same. Even as the church bells rang softly in the distance, they felt hollow, tainted by what had transpired under their sound. Father Daniel McKinnon was the first suspect. The priest of St. Mark's for over a decade, he was the face of the town's spiritual life. But whispers had long followed him. Whispers about his intense sermons, his gaze lingering too long on certain women in the congregation. Some even claimed Maria had been uncomfortable around him. No one had dared speak the truth openly, but those who looked closely began to notice small things. Father Daniel's deepening obsession with the concept of sin, his cryptic sermons about redemption, and his increasingly erratic behavior. When Detective Allison Harper questioned Father Daniel, he was insistent. "I've done nothing wrong," he said. He claimed to be alone, praying the night Maria disappeared, but no one could verify his alibi. The priest's once impeccable image as a man of faith began to crack under the scrutiny. And then there was Maria's diary, which made Detective Harper's stomach turn. The chilling words about Father Daniel's obsession felt like an echo in the silence of the church. "He knows my secrets," Maria had written weeks before her death. "I feel his eyes on me, even when I'm alone." Maria's diary painted a picture of a woman tormented, not by mere thoughts, but by something far more sinister that had been lurking in the shadows of her life. The truth was beginning to surface. The Ledger of Lies. A breakthrough came when police uncovered a ledger hidden in Father Daniel's desk. $200,000 had been withdrawn from the church's accounts over the past year. But where had the money gone? At first, it appeared to be simple theft. But as investigators dug deeper, the horrifying connections began to unfold. The missing money wasn't just for Father Daniel's personal gain. It was being funneled into something far darker, something that would shatter the town's faith in its own institutions. The answer lay in a decrepit house on the outskirts of a neighboring town. Inside, police found a shrine, a collection of photographs of Maria, many taken through her cottage windows, stolen trinkets, and in the corner, a journal filled with disturbing ramblings about sin, fire, and redemption. Father Daniel's obsession with purification and atonement had spiraled into something terrifying. The facade of the priest, so carefully constructed over the years, was crumbling. Father Daniel's carefully cultivated holiness was exposed for the lie it had always been. Ashford, a town once defined by its trust in the church, now found itself questioning everything they had believed in. Ashford shattered. The news of Father Daniel's arrest tore Ashford apart. Some still couldn't believe it. They clung to their faith, crying, "This is a witch hunt," as they prayed for his release. Others, unable to reconcile the priest they knew with the monster in front of them, demanded justice. There was no middle ground. Ashford had been split down the middle, divided between its faith and the ugly truth that had been uncovered. The families that had trusted Father Daniel for years suddenly felt betrayed, abandoned by the very institution that had once brought them comfort. Friends become strangers, and familiar faces now carry suspicion and fear. St. Mark's Church, once a symbol of unity, had become a battleground. The town's once unwavering belief in its sanctity had been shattered, leaving Ashford divided and broken. Even the idea of forgiveness seemed impossible. Trust could never return the same way it once was. The trial. The trial was a spectacle. The prosecution laid out damning evidence. DNA linking Father Daniel to the crime scene, financial records detailing his embezzlement, and testimonies from church staff who had witnessed his erratic behavior. But the most haunting revelation came when Maria's diary was read aloud. As the final entry was read, the courtroom fell silent, the weight of her words hanging in the air. "If I disappear, look beneath the altar. The truth is there." The chilling words haunted the courtroom. They led Detective Harper and her team back to St. Mark's, where they uncovered the hidden chamber beneath the altar. What they found there would haunt them forever. The discovery sent shockwaves through the town. The church, once a place of solace, was now the epicenter of a nightmare. shackles bolted to the walls, Polaroid photos of other women, some marked with dates, a blood-stained Bible, its pages scrawled with delusional ramblings. The reality of the depravity that had festered within the heart of Ashford was too much to bear. The true depth of Father Daniel's madness became clear. This was not simply a murder, but a ritual of twisted redemption. The aftermath. Father Daniel was sentenced to life in prison without parole, but the damage he had done to Ashford was irreparable. The town that had once been united by faith and tradition was now a shell of its former self. The horrors that had unfolded within the church walls left a permanent scar on the collective psyche of the community. The weight of the betrayal would linger for generations. St. Mark's Church stood abandoned, its walls overtaken by vines and decay. Maria's family could not bear to stay in the town, leaving the memories of their daughter's tragic death behind. But it wasn't just the family that suffered. Ashford itself had been irrevocably changed. No amount of time could erase the horror that had taken root in its foundation. Lisa Carter, the woman who found Maria, was left to battle the psychological scars of that fateful day. Her nightmares, survivor's guilt, and trauma would follow her for years. And even now, the whispers persist. Some believe Father Daniel didn't act alone. The rumors of a network of enablers, corrupt clergy, and wealthy donors who helped him cover up his crimes refuse to fade. The darkness never fades. Though the town of Ashford has tried to move on, it will never truly heal. St. Mark's Church still stands, a grim reminder of the evil that once hid behind its walls. Its crumbling edifice serves as a chilling symbol of how trust and faith can be perverted. And on some nights, when the wind howls through the empty streets, some say they hear the faint tolling of church bells, calling the faithful to a place where evil once wore the guise of holiness. In the end, Father Daniel McKinnon's story is a stark reminder that true evil doesn't always hide in the shadows. Sometimes it stands before us, cloaked in robes of righteousness, wearing the mask of piety. The darkness within Ashford may never fully fade, but Maria's memory, her light, will always remain. No matter how much time passes, some evils leave behind scars too deep to ever heal completely.